We've taken our guidance and lead from the King here. We've seen Andrew relinquish all the honorary positions he's had with the British military, bar one, and that last remaining title we're in the process now of removing.
Let's go straight to the Defence Secretary, John Healey. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I want to ask you first of all about the stabbings on the train. Do you think there should have been already more information from the police about the alleged perpetrators?
Well, first of all, it's shocking. I was on that very service just a few hours before the attack yesterday with my wife Jackie. I use it every day to get home to Rotherham, and what's emerged from the pictures and the reports from the passengers is truly horrifying. The investigation has begun. I welcome the fact the police are set to give the public as much information as they can as soon as they can, and that first press conference is scheduled to take place any moment now. That's obviously the right thing to do.
But we do live in an internet age, an age of social media, and clearly there are things already circulating from eyewitnesses about what went on, and we've had this question arising in Southport and elsewhere as to whether one way or another it's best to get as much information as you can about the background of people responsible for this because of the obvious sensitivities.
Look, quite right. I mean, a very rapid response from the emergency services as well as from the passengers, and quite right that the British Transport Police is set any moment to do their first update for the public. As much information as they can will be released. They're doing it as soon as they can, and they're doing it rapidly, and no one can control the sort of speculation that we see on the internet. What we can do is make sure that the investigation is conducted properly, and that's begun. It's being led by the British Transport Police with local police and supported by counter-terrorism police. And when the police have that information, they will release it as soon as they're able to do so.
Moving to your own brief, and of course we are in the remembrance period when the service of the armed forces is commemorated. You are announcing today a $9 billion upgrading of accommodation for people in the services, affecting, it suggested 40,000 homes. Have you definitely got the money for that, or is this just an aspiration?
No, we have the money. This will be possible because as a government we've made the commitment to increase defence investment by a record amount since the end of the Cold War. And you're right to make the link to remembrance in this remembrance period ahead for next Sunday. That's a period when the nation remembers the sacrifice of those who gave their lives for our freedoms. But it's also a moment when the nation recognises the service of those in uniform today. And this is a chance to fix a long-run scandal. It's a chance to upgrade 40,000 homes, likely rebuild 14,000 of those. But I'm also determined that it's a chance to supercharge the building of new homes that we need on surplus defence land, with forces first at the heart of that, which means that military personnel and veterans will get priority over purchase of those homes. It means that the receipts from those developments will be recycled for more housing. And this is the way that we help boost our house building for everyone. And it's a way that we help see defence drive economic growth right across the UK. So
where is the money coming from, and over what period are we talking about this 40,000 figure?
So I've said we'll put an extra 1.5 billion into military family homes in this Parliament. It'll be part of a total of 9 billion over the decade, and that is more than double the 4 billion that the Conservatives had in their plans before they lost the election.
And that's from your defence budget?
That's fully funded, and our increase in defence spending is fully funded, and it's funded by that decision that we've taken to switch money directly out of overseas aid into defence, to recognise the fact that we're in this new era of threats, and we require a new area for defence, and that's what I, as Defence Secretary, determined to lead, a combination of new leadership, new investment and deep reform.
Do you think this is part of a move across society towards more public housing because, frankly, the private sector is not producing enough socially affordable homes?
Well, we're launching our review tomorrow and making the £9 billion commitment today. But 6 months after the election, you saw me step in to end the worst ever Tory privatisation and buy back 36,000 military family homes into public ownership. Today's the day when we're making the fresh investment to upgrade those homes, and a commitment with a plan for the next decade to make much better use of public land, defence surplus land, not the Tory fire sale that we've seen in the past, but making sure that this is for the benefit of the wider British economy, the need for more British homes, and a recycling of those receipts that may come from it into building more homes for the future.
What is your assessment of the state of the conflict in Ukraine at the moment? A lot of people suggesting that in the end the level of support to Ukraine will not be enough to stop Russia prevailing. What's your assessment?
Well, look, it's tough for Ukraine at the moment. I was out there 4 or 5 weeks ago, but they have huge resilience and defiance, and they're fighting with great courage, military and civilians alike. My first point, really, and I always remind people of this was a war that Putin thought he'd win in a week. And 3.5 years on, he's lost over 1 million men. At this rate of progress that he's made this year, it'll take him another 4 years to take the whole of the Donbass. Our job as those countries like the UK, one of the leading supporters standing by Ukraine, is to make sure that we provide the military aid that keeps the Ukrainians in the fight, and we put whatever pressure we can on Putin, working with the Americans and allies to come to the table so that we call out President Putin, who says he wants to talk, but is putting off negotiations to bring an end to this fighting.
But, I mean, there are very experienced commentators, I think, one of them be Roger Boys in the Times, just saying that in the end Kyiv will have lost this war by the spring at this level of support and conflict. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm not going to get into that sort of commentary. All I would say is that Ukrainians are defiant. They're fighting with huge courage. We are stepping up alongside other nations that are supporting Ukraine with extra support. As the UK, we're putting in a record amount into military aid for Ukraine this year alone, £4.5 billion. We've rapidly increased the delivery of missiles to help their air defence. And we're just starting now with Ukraine doing a groundbreaking joint development and mass production of interceptor drones that will help them defend their front line and defend their cities and their energy infrastructure in the months ahead.
Does Andrew Mountbatten Windsor still have any contact or links with Britain's armed forces?
Well, we've taken our guidance and lead from the King here. We've seen Andrew relinquish all the honorary positions he's had with the British military, bar one, and that last remaining title we're in the process now of removing.
Right, and what title's that?
That's the title of Vice Admiral, and as I say, guided by the King, we're in the process now of removing that. Because we know, and the King knows, just how important the Royals are to our British military. They serve the King, and where we have royal figures that are the honorary positions on squadrons or regiments, there's a matter of huge pride, and so it's quite right that we're taking this last step.
I mean, presumably he still has a military pension from his service.
I don't know the details of his pension arrangements. The steps that we're taking as a government and that I'm ensuring we take as the Defence Secretary and Defence Department are consistent with the guidance and decisions that we get from the King.
And more broadly, do you think that the decisions taken this week by the King draw a line under this, or are there still more investigations of Andrew which you would like to see, or possibly a Public Accounts Committee look at royal finances again?
The Public Accounts Committee will do their proper job on behalf of Parliament to look at, as they do, the royal grant and the use of public money that supports royalty. In the case of Andrew, I think the British public have really welcomed the decision and the steps the King has taken this week.
John Healey, Defence Secretary, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and thank you for delaying your travel plans.